It was a cold, rainy night in the heart of the city. People rushed past with umbrellas, coats pulled tight, each one eager to get home, warm and dry. No one noticed the little girl curled up at the corner of a deserted bus stop bench, except one man. He stood across the street, unmoving, watching her from the shadows beneath his car's tinted window. The red light in front of him turned green. Cars honked, but he didn't move. That man was Edward Vance, billionaire tech CEO, one of the most influential figures in the business world. A man used to headlines, luxury, and power. But tonight, none of that mattered. Something about that small, shivering figure in the dim glow of the streetlight had caught his heart in a vice. He could have driven away. He could have told himself it wasn't his business. He could have gone back to his penthouse, the fireplace, the silence of his lonely success. But something in that moment wouldn't let him look away. Something buried, old, and aching inside him was stirring. The next morning, the headlines had no idea what Edward Vance had done. But for one little girl named Lily, her entire world was about to change. Lily was 9. She hadn't seen her mother in 3 days. She didn't know where she'd gone, but she remembered the last thing her mom said to her: "Wait here. I'll be right back." That, right back, never came. Lily had waited at the small shelter they'd been squatting in, but when food ran out and the shadows got louder than her stomach, she wandered. She ended up at the bus stop. The world didn't feel cruel to her, just empty. She had long stopped expecting kindness. Her hair was messy, her shoes didn't match, and the doll she carried was missing one arm. But she held that doll like it was everything, and maybe it was. She didn't remember falling asleep that night. Just the cold metal of the bench and the hum of passing traffic. She didn't know that someone was watching her. The next morning, she woke up not to the chill wind, but to the smell of warm pancakes. Confused, she sat up in a strange room, clean, quiet, and full of sunlight. She panicked for a moment. Was this a dream? Had she finally slipped too far into sleep and woken up somewhere else? But then a voice, calm, steady, came from behind her. "You're safe here. My name's Edward." She turned, and there he was. The man from last night. She remembered him now. He had stood across the street. She thought he'd left, but instead, he'd come back. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. He smiled, not the kind of smile you see in magazines, but a tired, kind one. "Because once, someone should have come back for me. And they didn't." Edward Vance's story wasn't on the cover of Forbes. It wasn't in business podcasts or finance books. But it was real. He'd grown up in a broken home, shuffled from shelter to shelter, forgotten by relatives, left behind by a world that only noticed you once you were something. He made himself into something, built an empire with his own hands and grit. But in that journey, he'd buried the child he once was. Seeing Lily brought it all back. The waiting, the hunger, the fear, and the hope that someone would say, "Come with me." He'd whispered that exact phrase to her the night before, kneeling beside the bench. "Come with me." And though she didn't know him, something in his voice felt safe. That morning, Lily ate. She bathed. She wore clothes that weren't torn. She played with a new doll Edward's assistant had bought in a rush. She didn't smile much yet, but her eyes watched everything. Carefully. The media exploded when Edward Vance was seen walking hand in hand with a small girl through Central Park. Rumors flew. Adoption, secret daughter, PR stunt, but Edward didn't answer. He didn't care what the world thought. Instead, he brought in social workers. Not the cold kind, but the real ones, empathetic, human. He didn't want to replace Lily's mother. He just wanted her to be okay. He paid for therapy, schooling, and most of all, time. Time for her to heal. She didn't speak much for the first few weeks. But one night, as he was reading a book in the guest room turned into her room, she reached out and touched his sleeve. "Do you think my mom's coming back?" she asked, eyes wide and honest. Edward froze. He looked into those eyes, so much like his own used to be. "I don't know," he answered. "But I'll be here, until she does, or as long as you need." She nodded slowly. Then, for the first time, she rested her head against his arm. Months passed. Lily began smiling. She loved painting and would often gift Edward messy, colorful canvases. He put every single one in a frame. He found himself laughing more, working less. His board of directors complained, but he didn't care. He started a foundation, the Come With Me Project, dedicated to rescuing abandoned and homeless children. He visited shelters. He listened to their stories. And every time he saw a small child curled up in a corner, he remembered that night. "Come with me," he would say. And the cycle would begin again. 1 year later, Lily stood on a stage beside Edward. She wore a bright yellow dress and held a microphone nervously. A banner behind her read, "Annual Gala for the Come With Me Project." She looked out at the sea of faces. Wealthy people, powerful people, the kind of people who never saw girls like her before. "My name is Lily," she began. "A year ago, I was sleeping on a bus stop bench. I thought I was forgotten. But someone saw me. Someone said, 'Come with me.' And everything changed." She paused, glancing at Edward. He smiled, eyes a little wet. "There are kids out there right now, waiting. They don't need the world. They don't even need $1 million. They just need one person to say, 'Come with me.' Please, be that person." The room stood silent. Then, thunderous applause. That night, Edward sat on the rooftop balcony of his penthouse. Lily sat beside him, swinging her legs off the edge, her doll beside her. "Do you think we helped today?" she asked. He nodded. "More than you know." She looked up. "You helped me first. Now I want to help others. Like you did." He ruffled her hair. "That's how the world changes. One person at a time." And as the city lights sparkled around them, two once forgotten souls, one once a child without a home, the other a child still finding her own, sat side by side, proving that even in the coldest nights, the smallest act of kindness can light a fire that never goes out. So the next time you see someone lost, or hurting, or alone, don't walk past. Don't assume someone else will help. Look them in the eyes. Reach out your hand, and say the words that changed a life. "Come with me. Dash dash dash." Let this story remind us, no act of kindness is too small. One heart, one step, one gesture, can change everything.